Hello, everybody. So a lot of people are very excited for Adventure Mode, and a lot of the people that are extremely excited for Adventure Mode have never actually played it before. Now, yeah, it's been accessible for a while, and you've been able to play it in older versions, but it's a bit impenetrable for many. So we're going to actually go through a list of things that you can and cannot do in Adventure Mode to hopefully clear up some confusion. Now, there's a lot of things going around like, can you dig? Can you farm? Is this a life sim? What kind of game is this? The thing that I like to start off with Adventure Mode when explaining it to people is it is essentially a mode that lets you play as the visitors who come into your tavern. That being the monster hunters, the thieves, the poets, the singers, the mercenaries, those kinds of characters. Potentially a diplomat, but that's a bit advanced. Endgame for Adventure Mode is essentially slaying a mega beast, like a dragon, or maybe taming the dragon. Endgame for Adventure Mode could be becoming a vampire overlord, and then learning the secrets of necromancy and wandering around and raising the dead. Endgame for Adventure Mode could be enslaving a demon lord. But we're going to go down this list that, well, I was originally prepping myself, and then simply found on the Bay 12 forums and was like, I should just use that, because that's way easier for me. So this, posted by JuiceThigger on May 9th, 2020 at 7:07:41 a.m. my time. And so this is a very useful list that they made. I will, of course, link this thread down in the description of the video as well if you would like to simply scroll through it yourself. As you can see, it's been read quite a few times, so this is not a quiet thread. So you can write a book. Now, writing a book is a little bit difficult in Adventure Mode, and I'll also link to this wiki page, I suppose. But essentially what you have to do is in the original game, you would have to hit X. You'd need to have an unwritten scroll or quire. This is something you could prep in a fortress and then move it into your inventory, and then you'd write, and then you'd write it onto the quire, and then from there, you would have a book. So then you could leave that book somewhere and find it in Fortress mode if you want, or alternatively, just, let it sit there and rot away, or carry it around in your backpack and lose it in the wild and die with your art. So writing a book is something you can do. You can compose music and dance. When you start dancing in taverns or public spaces, anybody else who knows the dance that you're doing will join in. If they don't know the dance, they will slowly learn it. So just kind of an interesting little tidbit there. You can ride mounts, any mounts that are friendly to you. You can ride around and use kind of as a on horseback or on weapon mount and do quite a bit of damage. Then of course you can ride in minecarts, which may or may not be a great idea. You can pull levers, which may or may not be a bad idea. You can create a stone axe, which is done by pulling a branch off of a tree and then taking two rocks and banging them together until you get one sharp rock. And then you take that one sharp rock and then you cut the stick with it, and then you attach the sharp rock to the stick. It's a process, but it is a thing that you can do. You can become a necromancer or a vampire, or both. Necromancers, of course, can raise the dead, and vampires can, of course, drink blood and not get mad about it. Anybody can drink blood, you just probably don't want to do it. If you are a creature with wings, you can fly. You can swim underwater without drowning if you happen to be, like, let's just say, an elephant seal man. You can change your beliefs or other people's beliefs, essentially like you can convince yourself, your character, your adventurer, that they no longer believe in a certain god or no longer believe in a certain type of religion or perhaps no longer believe in a certain political leaning. As an example, you could have a dwarf that's very much a pacifist and convince them that they like violence by talking to the right people. It's an interesting thing that you can do. You can extract venoms from weapons, so if you find a poisoned weapon or just a barrel of poison or something, you can extract the liquid and put it into a container. This is like why you find these barrels of bee venom as an example. You could then put it into a container, and then they're using certain methods. You could actually coat the weapon with it and then stab somebody a little bit more effectively. It's a whole thing. Of course, you can put things into and remove things from any type of containers. You can pick flowers. You can dance, write poems, perform music, sing or chant. You can play instruments. You can simulate playing an instrument. You can give a sermon if you worship a particular religion and there's a temple nearby. You can climb and move step ladders. You can climb trees in many different formats. You can make campfires, and you can heat things up on the campfires, including thawing out frozen drinks. You can set anything on fire that is set on fireable, which can cause fire to spread, but not always, I find. And you can swim up and down in the water while drowning, which will kill you. I mean, that's just like swimming normally, isn't it? Isn't technically just being underwater like a matter of time until you drown. You can go through locked doors by breaking them. The only example I think of a locked door I've ever found in adventure mode are mummies, and you die shortly after if you do that usually. Now, it says that you can fill up pools with water using minecarts. I guess that just kind of goes alongside of the filling a minecart. You can join a bandit group by asking the leader nicely. What's kind of funny was I had an adventure once where I killed the leader of a bandit group and then convinced the remaining bandit to join me and then give me rights to their land, so I became the leader of that bandit group. But because I killed that bandit's leader, all that bandit did was follow me around and spit on me the whole time, which was kind of funny, and then insult me, but also did, join my cause and did the things I needed them to do. As it says right here, you can become the leader of a bandit camp and criminal organization. You can kill people with alcohol, which I've never done, but that doesn't surprise me. You can get drunk by drinking too much and just walk around vomiting everywhere. You can drink from a mug or a goblet. You can store different kinds of liquids unmixed in one container. Which is interesting because, you could say take water and then alcohol and then, I don't know, cow's milk and put them all into a water skin and then separate them out separately and drink them. You can also carry, 30 cups worth of alcohol around in your hands. Don't worry about it too much. You can perform surgery by first suffocating someone and then chopping his body parts away, which is a little screwed up, but fun fact also, things don't have any pain receptors while they're sleeping, so if you find a goblin that's asleep, yes, you can go cut their ears off and then they can't hear you as you crash around and make lots of noise, which is kind of fantastic. Like it says, you can remove someone's body parts. It's just you can look through a window, you can jump through a wall grate, you can jump through standing bars, you can jump at a campfire, which is probably not wise. You can move carefully into a fire and then set yourself on fire. You can wrap cloth around your hands, and I don't know why you would want to do that. Maybe just to simulate being a monk. I mean, reading this list, it's I didn't know you could do that. That is fascinating. Of course, you can wear crowns. You can heat things slowly at a campfire, like I already mentioned. You can heat things at lava and magma, and you can burn stuff or anything that's on fire, really. You can heat stuff in a cauldron if you happen to find a cauldron. You can melt tin into molten tin by using magma, I would assume. Hold molten tin in your bare hands. That seems like a bad idea, but very dwarfy. And you can also evaporate water in a cauldron on a fire. You can talk to your pet or to your god. It doesn't list that here, I don't think. You can influence your pet's mood by talking to it, or influence your own mood by talking to your god that doesn't exist. And you can slow heat yourself up next to a fire to the point your fat starts melting. That's slightly disturbing. Then here it gives you a list of things you can do and how to do them. So how to become a thrall, how to become a king or queen. If you want to see all that, I'll link this thread in the description. Now, things that you can't do. This is important. You can't mine. Just flat. There is no way to mine. You can't plant seeds. You cannot make a choir, but there is a mod to let you do that. You can't, which is basically an unwritten book. You can't fish. You can't use an animal trap. You can't build workshops. You can't use workshops. You can't create weapons, you can't create armor, you can't make clothing, you can't build a trap. Something else that they didn't list up above in the You Can Do is you can roll dice in temples. Rolling dice in temples basically gives you a random chance to either get a buff or a debuff from a god who happens to run that temple. If you happen to worship that god, it might be a good thing. As an example, there was one time I rolled a dice and got an adamantine skirt out of it, which was very sad because it was the wrong size for the character I had at the time. It was dwarven size, and my character was definitely taller than a dwarf. It was a moose man. You can't shear animals, you can't milk animals, you can't sit in chairs, sit at tables, or lie in a bed. But you can lie down on top of a bed. It just isn't lying in the bed. You're lying on the ground next to a bed, but don't worry about it. Can't pick up boulders. You can't target body parts when throwing or firing with a crossbow. You just kind of fire in their general direction or throw in their general direction, making a ranged combat actually probably the simplest form of combat in adventure mode. You can't have a house inside of a settlement, but you can move in, and what are they going to do to stop you? You can't become a vampire and a werebeast at the same time, and you can't become a vampire or a werebeast when you are a zombie. And I was unaware you could be a zombie, so yeah. You can't marry, get a wife, or get children. Due to all adventurers actually being asexual. This is a thing. The thing is that is a planned feature, so in the future at some point we'll be able to do that theoretically. You can't own a room in a fortress. However, if you reclaim a fort in fort mode and you've left an adventurer in there, then they can participate in the fort as normal, so they can do all of these things such as become a member of a guild and all that. But they can only do that after you've reclaimed the fortress. Basically, it's like a fortress-only accessible activity. It's apparently impossible to become an outpost liaison, although I wonder if they became the outpost liaison in fort mode and then you reclaim them, if you could then have them, or if it's just like a hard-locked thing you can't do. It's impossible to fulfill the need to be with friends or family because they literally can't, and it's also impossible to fulfill the need of helping somebody. So you should turn down your empathy if you want a happy adventurer, or just an adventurer that doesn't want to be around family. You can't kill small animals like snails, but you can eat them. You can't play with toys, like at all, although you can pick them up and throw them. You could, like, theoretically use toy axes as projectile weapons, but you can't actually play with them. You can't do something useful with a picked flower. Like, you can pick flowers and leaves, and a lot of them are just completely useless. You can't use wheelbarrows. You can't stack multiple step ladders. You can't operate pumps. You can't operate siege engines. You can't break through grates, windows, floor hatches, or vertical bars by brute force. You can't throw something through a window to break it. Windows are indestructible. You can't peek through closed doors. You can't put animals inside cages. You can't put yourself in a coffin. You can't dye thread, cloth, or anything else. You can't lock a door. You can't... This is just too funny. You can't breathe underwater while you're in a minecart. I mean, that's how it works in fort mode too, so... You can't engrave anything. You can't do medical stuff. There's no, like, medical system in adventure mode right now, although that is something that's hopefully going to be solved with healing potions, so I'm looking forward to that. You can't use a mortar and pestle, even though they exist. Only the AI units use those. Scholarly stuff like pondering can't be done, but you can read books, so there is that. You can't decorate stuff like in crossing. There's basically just almost no crafting in adventure mode outside of mods. You can't tie anything up with rope, like your mounts or horse, as an example. You can't cook. There is no cooking. You can't lock doors, even in your own personal site. Like, if you are using the construction mechanics, which, as far as I know, isn't going to be in the initial beta for adventure mode, you can't lock your doors, which is kind of funny. You might come back and there's somebody in there. You can't open grates. You can't dye something, DYE. You can't be a building destroyer, even if you are a character that should be able to destroy buildings. Basically, you can't rip doors off their hinges. There's a lot of things you can't say to your pets. You can't give your pet anything such as food, but you can pet them. You can't melt sand into glass. You can't bake clay into ceramics. You can't get salt from evaporating seawater. You know, some of these are just funny to me. It's not safe to be in lava, even with nether cap armor. I wonder if you're playing as a magma man, though. Then can you go into the lava? You can't carry a wounded companion to safety, either personally or on the back of an animal. You can't pick up your companions, essentially, so if they're bleeding out and they're dead. Drink blood to quench your thirst. That drinking blood doesn't quench your thirst, guys. Like, come on. Even though you can drink blood, and I've done it accidentally. I've accidentally drank blood off my sword a few times. I don't want to talk about it. And if you drink vampire-infested blood, it does not make you into a vampire. You have to get cursed to become a vampire. And then there's a big list of things that this person was doing science to try and figure out if it's possible, but that's actually a pretty good comprehensive list of things that you can and cannot do in adventure mode. I will, of course, link the thread down in the description of this video. I do hope that you found this useful, and if you are very excited about adventure mode, just note that it is going to be a beta, which means it's unlikely that everything will be in there at launch. Maybe we'll get some sort of post, like they said last week, about a roadmap of things to expect for the actual beta's development, but I'm going to say keep your expectations leveled right now. While I am excited to make another round of tutorials for everybody and like talk about the game and show it off and play it, just keep in mind adventure mode's a weird beast to begin with, and there's not a lot of things you can do in adventure mode that you can do in fortress mode, but there's some things that you can do in adventure mode that you can't do in fortress mode. So it's going to be interesting to see how people respond to it and how people pick it up, and hopefully you found this useful. Thank you very much for watching this video. Take care of yourselves. Find me on Twitch, twitch.tv/BLINDIRL, and I hope to see you in the next one.